and welcome to Nocturnal Transmissions, your friendly provider of short horror fiction, both old and new. We hope you enjoyed Meet Cute Thulu last episode. Quite a change of tone, well, in parts, wasn't it? Now, if you're expecting to get swept up in romance again this time, I'm afraid that isn't on the menu. Oh, what is on the menu, you ask? You'll see. Nocturnal Transmissions is proud to present an anonymous source by Stephen Howard. It was the day of the assassination attempt, for I knew for sure I'd gained the power of a god. Sat in a dingy city centre bar, the TV playing one of those 24-hour news channels, the ones that loop headlines. Screen wipe disappeared the presenters and flashed up with breaking King Harold hospitalised after stabbing. Member of Buckingham Palace staff arrested. You might wonder how such a moment might convince me I was a god. Well, it's because I'd written this event into existence. I should take it further back first. You see, one day, maybe a couple of months after my wife left me, I was reading the local newspaper and noticed for the first time an email address at the bottom of an article. It was just a general email address. The idea being concerned citizens send in anything newsworthy. In essence, a tip line. Now, this was the local newspaper, so they're probably expecting cats rescued from trees and birthdays of local ducks, I don't know, that kind of fluff. I'm not sure what made me do it, maybe boredom, but I created a burner email account and sent over the following. Dear editors, I am an employee of Gradient Chemicals whose conscience can no longer bear the weight of our crimes. Gradient has been dumping toxic materials into the lake out past Pickling Point, causing severe issues with local wildlife. While I wish to remain anonymous, please be assured I am of sufficiently high rank to know this for a fact. Please, do as you will with this information. Of course, not a single point in this email was true. It was a bit of fun, a lark, and after a week I forgot all about it. Until, that is, my revelation hit the newspaper's front page. It was a shock, I'll tell you, but sparked a real sense of joy inside me, one I'd not felt in a while. Accomplishment, I think, is what that feeling was. I got a buzz when they used the phrase, a source within Gradient itself, a modern-day deep throat. Now, I didn't expect people to run with the story, but poring over the message boards online and checking the comments on social media, I found people believed it, hook, line and sinker. Now, maybe the idea of the evil chemical company was an easy target, I don't know. But Gradient were bombarded with hate, and the story syndicated nationally. Eventually the story was disproven, but that news was quieter, and the damage was done. This was the start of my addiction. My first hit. I kept chasing that first hit, creating multiple email addresses and personas, pretending to be sources inside the biggest companies, both private and public, and spilling information to journalists. I lost focus at work, cancelled engagements, barely remembered to eat. So focused was I on this new hobby. Every lie I created gave me a rush of endorphins to equal the sweetness of that first cigarette in the morning. Not every lie made the news, but plenty slipped through. They just needed to find a set of eyes greedy enough to overlook the need for due diligence. Ambition and laziness go hand in hand these days, like a burger and fries or black coffee and a smoke. Always, these stories were met with voracious gullibility. People were desperate to believe the worst, so much so they expect it. And I fed those avaricious, plebeian mouths. And then, one day, a lie became the truth. I remember that first one. Naturally, at first I assumed it was a coincidence, not being aware that a strange power had been bestowed upon me by some cosmic benefactor. And it was around this time I received the first in a series of emails to a bunch of my different accounts from someone claiming to be an investigative journalist. She worked for one of those little indie websites that are big on opinion, short on facts. Youth today love that kind of empty black or white type thinking. I ignored the emails, but they kept coming. Eventually I replied to several of them with a rather impolite directive and blocked her address. That was, I thought, the end of things. But anyway, my first instance of creating reality, as I like to think of it, related to a local politician. I'd written him a council leader numerous times regarding the state of our roads in a boring but necessary shite. The eventual response was predictably mind-numbing, and I thought perhaps a little corruption rumour might put the jumped-up little oik in his place. I fired off an email to a fairly reliable go-between of mine, because by that point I'd forged a small network of contacts, and waited in the hope he'd be taken down. A week later I was putting my bins out and my neighbour was doing the same. "Seen the news?" my neighbour asked. I shook my head. No. Head of the local council was supposed to have taken a bung to push for some contracts for his brother's company, he said, tossing a full black bin liner into his bin. Can't be trusted, any of them, I replied absently, though that rush of adrenaline hit me hard, flushing me with a near-orgasmic joy. Nah, I don't believe a word of it. The big wigs are worried about him. They're taking him down before he makes a run for MP. I watched him go in, puzzled. Generally, my little rumours found support, but not this one. As you can imagine, this perturbed me greatly, but not as much as the council leader's subsequent public apology and admission of guilt. First I figured I'd had a lucky guess. A corrupt politician was hardly the shock of the century after all. But I set in motion a series of tests, culminating in my masterpiece, a rumour of a plot to kill the king. That, as I'd mentioned, was when I knew what I'd become. I didn't know how, but there you go. Funny old world, eh? So, anyway, I'm sat in another dingy bar, gawping at the television, completely forgetting the reason I'm there in the first place. "I can see your tonsils," Shirley's shrill voice slapped me about the face. "I'll get myself a drink, shall I?" Shirley reappeared moments later with a glass of Coca-Cola topped with a slice of lemon. No doubt it was at least 2 parts of vodka, maybe more if she'd battered her over long eyelashes. "You look terrible, then you got fat. I told you to switch those healthy shakes and ditch the fry-ups," she said. I eyed her rouge lipstick and heavy eyeshadow, took in the shiny new jacket and dangly earrings, and cracked my knuckles. "Why are we here?" I asked. "I thought somewhere grotty would make you more comfortable," Shirley smirked, the powder on her face cracking around the lines in her forehead. No, why are we here?" I repeated. The smirk dropped. "You ever think we rushed into the divorce?" Her foot's against my leg. She's caressing it, playing footsie like some love-struck teenager. Doesn't make sense. Then I think about the old Shirley before we got together. She hated being alone, always had someone on the hook. "So, he's left, has he?" Her foot fell away. "I don't know what you're referring to," she said, taking a long drink from a glass. My eyes were drawn back to the television. The king was in a stable condition in hospital. Probably best he didn't die, but I guess if I played things right, I could really start to affect the world. Change things on a global scale. What were the extent of my powers? Just what could I do with them? Shirley was still speaking, but I'd zoned out.
I guess you were just another frog I had to kiss,
she said, standing. Frog? She dared to call her new god a frog. This seemed as good time as any to test the limits of this strange power of mine. I figured a local level journo would be the best. Nationals aren't running novelty stories after all. Once Shirley's coat disappeared up the staircase, I fired off an email and then relaxed, savouring my beer. It was a few days later when I noticed the story headline buried down the local newspaper's webpage. I'd initially been scrolling through the replies to the article regarding the King's assassination attempt and been bewildered to find most replies hadn't believed it, with many claiming the attempt on King Harold's life was faked to garner sympathy for the family. So I lie through my teeth and people swallow it. I give them something that actually happens and they don't believe it. People are a strange breed. Anyway, browsing the site, I spied this little fluff piece. Witchcraft rife in Pickling area. The story detailed an unsubstantiated rumour that a local woman could transform into a frog. Despite my best efforts, they'd chosen not to name the woman, no doubt fearing legal reprisals. The comments were all bemoaning the lack of journalistic standards and saying this was obviously untrue. But I was already halfway to my car. I tossed my phone onto the passenger seat, revved the engine and raced off down the driveway. 20 minutes later, I pulled up out front and stared at the old place. Shirley had stayed in our home after the divorce. A for sale sign protruded from the front lawn. She'd wasted little time in putting it on the market, though. Proven memories meant little to her. Another car pulled up over the road, driven by a young woman. I stopped as I exited my car and stared, but she averted her gaze and made to grab something from her passenger seat. Oddly skittish, the youth today. I still had my key, so I wandered up and let myself in. The house was silent and smelled overwhelmingly of lavender. Everything was neat and tidy, like a show home. It looked different to me, felt different. And then it clicked. My presence had been erased. That was a gut shot, in truth. I ran a finger along the frame of some landscape hanging in the hallway, finding not a speck of dust. Then I heard the sound I'd been expecting. Ribbit, coming from the kitchen. I tiptoed up the hallway and into the sleek, modern kitchen she'd had fitted with all the mod cons and fancy appliances after I'd left. Shirley always wanted a new kitchen. That it made sense to get your dream kitchen and then sell the house. Not to me. But I'd given up trying to understand. Which, ironically, is something she said to me towards the end. Ribbit, perched on the island in the centre of the kitchen, was a frog. Its lips were oddly rouge. I knew then that my powers had transgressed the laws of physics, natural law, anything that governed our reality. On the kitchen worktop was a NutriBullet, one of those fancy blenders to make those awful shakes she'd tried to have me drink as part of a health kick. I looked from the frog to the blender and back again. Ribbit, ribbit, ribbit. Frog Shirley tried to hop away, but I scooped her up. She felt oddly dry and frictiony against the palm of my hands and fingers, like she could simultaneously slip away or stick to me permanently. She didn't seem like a person to me anymore, so I no longer felt governed by any laws I could think of, man-made or otherwise. I stepped over to the NutriBullet, pried open the lid and dropped Shirley into the container. Ribbit. Ribbit. I placed the lid onto it and turned it until it felt firm. It was already plugged in, so I flipped the switch on the wall and then clicked the power button on its side. The machine set to work. A mechanical kind of churning noise filled the kitchen. I'd half expected screams, but there was nothing. Seconds later, the container held a viscous liquid, its coloration shades of pink and dark green. I knocked the power off and turned the switch off at the wall, then surveyed the gloopy concoction. It looked just like the healthy stuff she used to force down me. So I lifted the container from its holder and removed the lid. The smell was bloody and marshy. Made me think of a battlefield, the morning after a massacre. I smiled, a Shirley shake, patent pending. I took a deep breath, then drank the whole thing in one long gulp. Globules of frog clung to my throat, but I persisted and washed them down. It brought a whole new meaning to having a frog in your throat. I mean, I didn't feel croaky, but she'd croaked. I stepped out from the house and walked to my car. I needed a breath mint. Over the road, that same lady remained sat in her car. She seemed suddenly busy. I thought about asking her if she was okay, but the moment passed. I drove straight home. My downfall, as it were, came about by overconfidence and a slice of bad luck. Those emails I'd received from an especially persistent journalist turned out to be more dangerous than I'd imagined. I started to receive phone calls from an unknown number. Pestering, I'd call it, though the police and subsequent law professionals didn't agree. Anyway, the police eventually started to investigate Shirley as a missing person, with my disinclination to report her as such something of a sticking point, given we'd met up not so long ago. I argued my case, bit of break-up and all that, but they had a natural suspicion of me. Then a detective came round to my house, along with several police officers. The detective, a youngish man with bright eyes that flashed the naive hope in his heart, declared he was arresting me on suspicion of murdering my ex-wife. During the course of my questioning, several things became clear. Firstly, it wasn't impossible to prosecute someone for murder without a body. Secondly, an investigative reporter had compiled a hefty dossier on my activities, with multiple email accounts linked to my devices and IP address. This reporter witnessed me enter my ex-wife's home on the day the police had surmised she disappeared. Thirdly, I was fucked. "You've been a busy boy, it seems," the bright-eyed detective said as he left the interview room. From a god to a boy in the blink of an eye. Yeah, that's meddling in the media for you. And that, my friend, brings us somewhat up to date. Feel free to write about any of it. They don't allow me internet access in this place, which seems a wise choice given the circumstances. Yeah, I look back and think, damn, needed a hobby. You know, you get married and you just merge into this weary, bored blob, and then, I don't know, suddenly you're dissected and you realise you don't know what you're doing anymore. Maybe I should have taken up squash. Anyway, I've weaned off my addiction to creating reality. Perhaps those powers are lost. Or better yet, bestowed upon another. What if the next god will be so careless in their manipulations? I doubt it. And I doubt the public are any better at spotting a lie. far from the truth. It's a fucked up world, isn't it? An Anonymous Source by Stephen Howard. Stephen Howard is an English novelist and short story writer from Manchester, now based in Cheshire. You can find out more about this writer in the featured authors section of our website, nocturnaltransmissions.com.au. This transmission was made possible in no small part due to the generous support of our Patreon subscribers, into whose ranks we welcome new acolyte, Ali. Welcome, Ali. Welcome. You have been listening to a nocturnal transmission. All unpleasant feelings have been intentional. All voices and production have been concocted by Kristin Holland. Before we shuffle off into this good night, we would like to send out a big thank you to our cohorts. Drenny, Alex Brewers, Daniel Kamiankowski, Doug Standish, Kel Wielden, Fangora Brown, Bool Swivney, Wayne Prince, Jerry Taylor, Robert Troy Hampton Peterson, Johnny Kelly, Evan Dooley, Tippy Polo, Tim Howard, Amanda Moore, Heathen Soul, and Jimmy Mack. Thank you, cohorts. Until next time, as always, watch the skies, fear the dark, and don't trust anyone, especially yourself. Good night, gentle listener.
Good night, I'll see